Hello, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com, and welcome to the second part on my video series on Kotlin. Just basically utter basics of programming in Kotlin. Again, as far as you going deeper and really being able to program like an Android app or some other application using Kotlin, there are frameworks for using it for web applications and whatnot that you'll do on your own. The idea here is just to give you the basics so that way you know your way around and can feel comfortable learning more. Okay? So basically, once you learn some control flow, some variables, now functions and classes, you should have a pretty good understanding of what the tools are, and then it's just a matter of just getting practicing, learning more of what they can do, etc. So we're going to be doing functions first. Now, a function is just basically a way to take a clump of code and set it up in a way that you can use it whenever you need to. Okay? So here, the declaration for the function is fun. Okay? So you use the word fun, meaning new function, okay? And you give the name of your function. So we'll first start with say hello, okay? Then you would declare any parameters. Okay, I'm not going to declare any parameters yet. And then theoretically, you would also declare a return value here, but I'm not going to have a return value for this function. If you don't declare one, you don't need one. We'll talk about what that means in a moment. But this is just the basic function, okay? So basically, whenever I call say hello, what's going to happen? It's going to print line hello. Cool. So now I've declared the function, and now I can call it as many times as I want. Say hello. And I can just do that over and over again, and it'll print hello a whole bunch of times. So let's make sure that that does what it's supposed to do. Doot, 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 doot. And say hello, 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 hello. Unexpected symbol is probably complaining about the line breaks again. Just make sure that I typed it the same way. Say hello. Yep, that's all good. So it's probably just complaining about these. It's not letting me space in a pretty way, but oh well. Syntax. Yep, that's it. I guess you can't break it in multiple lines. Expects the code to be on the next line. So in that case, I can't do all the nice fun white space in my code. Okay, say hello, but basically I ran the function 5 times. Say hello, say hello, say hello, say hello. Wonderful. Okay, so that's one function, but that's not particularly useful. What if I wanted a function that does something? Okay, so we do fun. We'll say add 5. What it does is going to add 5 to a number. So I need to get that number. So if you want to add 5 to 6, how do I know that you want to add 5 to 6? I need a parameter. So we'll call our parameter num. Okay, that'll be a parameter, and it's going to be of type int. You have to declare the type. Okay, so we have one parameter. You can have more than one, so I could do comma, do another one, another one, another one. And then I wanted to give it back to me a value. Once it adds 5 to the number, I don't want it just to do it. I want it to actually give it back to me so I can use it. So I need a return value, so I'm going to put parentheses, colon, and then int, meaning this function is going to return an int. At the end, it has to give me back an integer value of some sort. Okay, and you could do that with string, any type of variable. Okay. Then again, my curly brackets. I won't make a bunch of spaces this time. But basically what it's going to do is going to take my variable, it's going to take whatever num we passed into it, so whatever number we gave the function, it's going to add 5 to it, and actually we're going to return that value right away. So return num plus 5, which means, okay, do this function and give me back the value of num plus 5. Okay? So now what does it do with num plus, what do I do with the result whenever I get it? Whatever I want. I'll give you a couple different options. So it's print line. And we'll print line the result of add 5 based on the number 6. Okay, and see what it results. So technically 6 plus 5 should be 11. So if this worked, it should print 11. And it prints 11 because what it did is that print line is a function saying print whatever's inside the parameter. And then in the parameter, I passed another function saying add 5 with the parameter 6, which means it's going to add 5 to 6 and return that value. So that means add 5 ends up being 11, so it's print 11. So you got to think through those layers. And if I want to take it even deeper, I could add 5 and call add 5 from add 5. So we do add 5, 6 inside here. So that means add 5, 6 is going to be 11, which is going to become the parameter for the second add 5. So 11 plus 5 is 16. And then print line is going to print the 16. So let's see here. We'll do that and it prints 16. Okay, so that's the cool thing about having a return value in a function. You can call functions within functions, and it makes it really useful to kind of do much more complicated stuff. Okay, so then now that we have that out of the way, next thing is to talk about classes. Now, classes are how you create new types or new objects. And objects are important just because objects help you break down your code in a way that's useful, as far as thinking of. So there might, let's say you're making a video game, and there's a bunch of animals in your video game. You might have a core class called animals that has there's a basic description of an animal. And again, when you think of a class is a noun. Okay, so animal is a noun, it's a thing. But that thing has certain characteristics. So maybe an animal is so old, it has a particular name. These are what's called attributes or properties of the class. These are the adjectives, these are the variables nested within the class. But that animal can also do things. It can bark. Oh, not necessarily bark. It can make a sound. That's a verb. Verbs are functions. Okay, so what are the things that the class can do? Okay, and the functions of a class are called methods. So every function is going to have different properties and methods, different adjectives and verbs that it can do as a noun. Okay, just to kind of help get the conceptual framework in there. Okay, now in Kotlin, we declare classes by using the class keyword. Okay, and then what's going to happen is that this is interesting. You actually declare your parameters in the class declaration. That's different from many other programming languages. So that means if I wanted to create the class animal, I would actually do age, which is going to be an integer, and name, which is going to be a string. I would actually make that declaration here. Okay, so that's kind of interesting. Cool. So let's go back down there just to kind of examine. No, that's the wrong page. Here we go. Okay. So then what happens is that when I create this class, it's going to expect that I put in those parameters. And then there's going to be a constructor function, which is the init function. The init function is basically what happens when you first create a new version of this class. So first, let's create our curly brackets. All our code for our class is in these curly brackets. Okay. And basically, first we'll do our whole init function. I want to say init, it's going to take age. Okay, let's just double check on declaring its internal properties. Oh, that's still a function page. Init, print first initializer. So make sure we don't have to use the this. The this keyword looks like it will be a thing on this one. His name, constructor. Let's see here. Primary constructor cannot contain any code. Initialization code can be placed in an initializer block. Yep, I get that. This name. I just know a little bit more about this keyword and how it's used. I'm not seeing it used the way it's normally used. Okay, so let's try this out. Okay, so basically the idea is what I want to do is I want to make sure that it assigns the age value to these values to this class. So I'm going to sit there and just say age this.age. This is the way it usually works in other programming languages. You would say this, meaning this instance of the class, that age equals age. And we'll see if it works. This.age or this.name equals name, and I capitalize it, so I better capitalize it. Name. Cool. That's all. Okay, and then that function is done. There's my init. So basically when it creates the class, it's going to do that first. You don't even need to do this because technically, when you actually declare and you declare your constructor variables here, it actually creates the variable. So I can just use age throughout the code as if it were anything else. So that's neat. That basically saves myself some redundant code that I used to doing in other languages. Okay, so then theoretically, I could do something like this. Func. So we'll create a function for this class. Fun my stats. Okay, which takes no parameters. It's just going to console, not console log. It's just going to print line. Basically, my name is plus name plus and my age is age. Cool. So my name is name and my age is age. And that should be all it does. Okay, and that's in that function. And then we close the class. So basically that's the class. So let's try creating a new class. So we're going to say var, call this Alex Merced. So we'll create me as a variable. Alex Merced is going to equal an animal. So you don't have to say like new animal like you have to do in other programming languages. It just knows that, hey, you're calling the class, so you're creating a new one. Var animal 34 will be the age, string Alex Merced, the name. So that creates, so now the Alex Merced variable should exist. And then let's call the function Alex Merced. Usually it's done by dot notation. So dot my stats and put the parentheses, and then it should print out my stats. Let's see. Enter symbol. Let's see here. Okay, so correction. I do need to declare my variables. So let's see here. Let's do that first. So in that case, we would just do our normal var. We'll say age equals, we'll just say age, which is an int, var age, well, name, which is a string. Okay, then we will do that init block. Okay, where we'll say this dot age equals age, and this dot name equals name. Okay. Okay, so it turns out the reason why I was having some trouble was because over here I wrote this dot title, not this dot name. So let's just re-go over what's going on here. So I'm declaring a new class called animal. Now, animal takes, when you construct it, create takes two parameters. A parameter named age of type integer, name string, which is a string. Okay, now when I start this function, I'm creating two variables, variable age, variable name. These are internal to the class. So when this constructor is called, so when I construct a new version of this class, it's going to run this code in this init block, which takes the internal variable of age. So that's why we use this. This is referring to this. So in this case, me, Alex Merced, my internal variable age is going to equal the parameter we took in of age, which was 34. My internal name is going to take on the variable Alex Merced from the parameter we passed in. Cool. Now I'm creating a function, so fun function, my stats, it takes no parameters, okay, and that does two things. It prints my internal age and my name, and that's what it does here. So basically, after we created Alex Merced, we then created we printed out my stats. And you can literally do that with anything. But the idea is you can create, and notice how in order for me to call the function, I had to call it based on me. So my instance of me. So if I created multiple people, each one would have, so if I created another person, val another person, okay, and this equals another animal, we'll say 45, we'll call them Bob Jones. Okay, and then what happens if I call the function on them, a person dot my stats separately, it'll call their internal variables, not mine. So give it a second to run. So see there, 34 Alex Merced. When Alex presents his stats, a person, you can kind of see that for like a video game or for any kind of program where you're creating multiples of something that have their own sort of different variables and their own behavior and need to be able to do the same things as each other. Classes can be really useful. Okay, so I'm gonna leave it at that. So we've kind of, in these videos, we've gone over all the basics, which are, again, variable declarations, ifs, loops, functions, and classes. There's a lot more to learn. Kotlin brings a lot to the table, so I'll let you read through the documentation and practice more, but this should give you a nice core understanding, core tool set for learning Kotlin. Thank you guys very much. Have a great day and enjoy.